Glad you got the flannel on.
Yeah.
All right, looks like everyone's here. Anyone need to talk about anything before I call the case?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, let's be on the record in case number 2019-CR1319, captioned State of Kansas versus Vanruss Robinson. Would the parties announce their appearances, please?
May it please the court, the state appears by Assistant District Attorney Taylor Hines via Zoom.
May it please the court, the defendant appears in person and with counsel David Pachacant via Zoom.
All right, we are here set down for a sentencing hearing. I would note for the record that we were in court back on March 26th of this year, at which time the defendant changed his plea from one of not guilty to guilty. The court inquired and accepted, ordered a pre-sentence investigation, and continued it to today for sentencing. I've received that PSI. The critical findings are as follows. The primary count of conviction is one of eluding a police officer. That is a severity level 9 person felony. The defendant's criminal history score was found to be that of B as in boy. That would leave him with a presumption of prison with a presumed range of 13, 14, or 15 months. If he has to do that time, he'll be eligible for up to 20% good time credit and subject to 12 months of post-release supervision. If he is granted probation today, it would be for a period of 12 months to community corrections. I would ask you first, Ms. Hines, did you have an opportunity to review the pre-sentence investigation? Any additions, corrections, or challenges to those findings?
Your Honor, yes, I've had an opportunity to review the PSI and I don't have any additions or corrections to it at this time.
Same question, Mr. Pachacant.
Yes, Your Honor, I have reviewed the PSI and reviewed the same with my client. Neither one of us have any additions or corrections.
All right. Given that, I will adopt the findings of the pre-sentence investigation. Mr. Pachacant, you filed and I have reviewed a motion for downward dispositional departure. You'd like to be heard on that this afternoon?
Yes, Your Honor. On that one, I actually believe it's a durational departure. I may have titled it wrong.
Let's see. It just says motion for departure. It says downward durational.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor. According to the PSI and my client's spot on the sentencing grid in this case, he would be looking at a standard sentence of 14 months. My client's done about, I believe, 266 days is the jail credit that he has, which is just under 9 months. Were he to go to prison and get his good time of 20%, he'd be looking at almost 3 months off of that as well. The state and defense entered into a plea agreement in which we had agreed to give my client time served as his sentence. Of course, he would still have to do post-release for that. Since he's been out, he's followed the law. He's currently working. He's been contributing member of society. We just ask that you follow that plea agreement and sentence him, depart from that 14-month sentence to time served on what he's already spent, so that he can just continue to do what he's doing and show that that he's moving on from this. He understands that the conviction that he took and the eluding is a very serious thing, and the court takes that seriously. But you know, he's done everything that we could ask of him since he's been out. We just ask that you follow the agreement and the departure motion.
Ms. Hines.
Your Honor, I agree with defense counsel in regards to our plea agreement was for time served, and I would just request that the court order the post-release as is mandatory for the 12 months, but also the time served. I believe it's around 8.8 months if you calculate it correctly, the 266 days.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Robinson, now's your opportunity to tell me anything you would like me to know in mitigation of your sentence today.
First off, sir, I'd just like to apologize for committing the crime and being in your courtroom.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
Yes,
All right. And I'll tell you, Mr. Robinson, we have had some particularly tragic consequences of fleeing and eluding in this jurisdiction lately. believe it or not, I used to kind of have a, I don't know, a problem with how harshly we sentenced people on fleeing and eludings. But recent events have kind of really highlighted for me the reason why we do that, because they are just so dangerous to innocent bystanders, really, is the difficulty with this. So I'm glad that you have the remorse that you do and understand that that this is something that shouldn't have been done. Very rarely do we find people in these cases are like dangerous felons running from the police because they're a danger. A lot of times it's people who react poorly to police officers pulling them over, and something like a person felony gets on their record without any real intent to harm someone. So I don't have a problem following this agreement. Mr. Patrick Kant, do you know any reason why I should not now proceed to sentencing?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to grant the downward durational departure. I will adopt as substantial and compelling reasons for that those listed in the defendant's motion and mentioned in his comments today. Therefore, for the crime of eluding a police officer, a severity level 9 person felony with a criminal history score of B, Mr. Robinson will be sentenced to the Department of Corrections for a period of 8 months. He's entitled to up to 20% good time credit, and he is subject to 12 months of post-release supervision. There is an issue of court costs, not supervision fee, because he's not being placed on supervision. This is clearly not Mr. Robinson's first Kansas felony offense, so there's no need for the database fee. I think the only costs and fees would be the court costs in this matter. Ms. Hines, do you know, am I missing on anything as far as that goes?
No, Your Honor, I don't believe so. I think that what you just stated was correct.
All right. So, Mr. Robinson, the amount of court costs in this case are $193. Mr. Patrick Kant, do you know what your attorney's fees are?
Judge, I have $1,180, 20 of which is discovery fees to the DA's office.
All right. Well, I'm only going to assess $200 of that against Mr. Robinson. I think that's a fair amount, and I think, Mr. Robinson, that's a real bargain for you, because I think your lawyer has done a really good job for you
Yes,
on
sir.
this. Let's put it this way: you were looking at up to 2 years. Well, probably not 2 years, a year and a half in prison. And I think you've done the time you're gonna do. So
Thank you, sir.
all right. So the total of that's gonna be about $400. Mr. Robinson, if I ordered you to pay that at a rate of $50 a month, which should have you done before your post release is done, is that something you're able to do?
Yes, sir.
All right. So that will be assessed. And we'll let parole worry about the collections on that, or whether they send it to collections. All right, Mr. Robinson, as a convicted felon, it's prohibited for you to own or possess a firearm, certain kind of deadly cutting instruments like dirks, daggers, switchblades, basically knives that could be considered deadly weapons. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
You have 14 days from today to appeal anything you don't like about your sentence, and you may be able to seek expungement of this conviction after a period of time following successful completion of post-release supervision, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Hines, anything that I failed to cover today?
Yeah, I don't believe so. I think you've covered everything.
Mr. Patricant?
The only thing I can think, I assume that in ordering some attorney's fees, he needs to pay the bids fee as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the bids application fee. So that'd be another 100. So it's going to be more like 500. But again, $50 a month will get you paid off before you're done with post release.
Yes, sir.
So they don't have to extend you or bother you after that. Okay. All right. So with that, Excuse me. And if I did mention it, he gets credit for every day of jail he's been in. The parties say it's 266 months, and that looks accurate to the court. We will be adjourned. Now, does anybody have any idea, now that we're adjourned, how Mr. Robinson gets set up?